Hello, this is DIY Reptiles, and today I'm going to give a bit of an update. I just moved like all the turtles inside, or not just now, but quite a while ago now, and I figured that it was time for an update, but actually it's time for a water change, so I'm going to be doing that, but I figured let's give you an update at the same time. So, I'm going to start with these for 10 gallons. This is like my favorite part of the room. It's amazing. I mean, that might maybe not true, but I really love these tanks. So these are just for 10 gallons. These two have a sponge filter. These two have in-tank filters, and this one has a red-eared slider named Rue. Now this is a rescue, just like all of my turtles, and she has been doing pretty well in here. I think she's still adjusting a little bit, but she has been doing well. I have some native plants, which isn't really normal for me, but these were some things that I had growing around the stock tank while I had all the turtle, like during the summer, and I figured I'd move them in here just for her tank, but it's not very normal for me. I'll take native moss if I can get it to grow inside. I'm fine with that, but generally native plants I don't really mess with, just so I don't bring in like pests and things into my room. But this is just kind of like a special case, and I think it looks really good. You'll notice that a lot of the tanks, the water is down a little bit, especially in this tank. It's because of the heat light. It just like evaporates the water really quickly, so, and it keeps the water like crazy warm, which is pretty crazy actually. You'd be surprised how much a heat light affects the water temperature in such a small tank especially. But Rue's been doing very well. She'll bask right here, and she does that all the time, and I think it's very functional and it works very well and it looks very nice. So then we have the Rosy Red Minnows, and actually while I'm thinking about it, I haven't fed anybody today, this morning, because I was working on some homework, so I'll go ahead and feed the fish while we're over here. Now these guys are super active and they're really good eaters, and then this aquarium is probably my favorite of the 10 gallons. It just looks crazy. So we have the plants on the water surface. So this is duckweed, water lettuce, and water hyacinth. And the water lettuce doesn't seem to be doing very well. I think it's this lighting system here. Like, I think that it just doesn't do well under this lighting system, because it is doing pretty well under my shop lights over here. So over here we have a ton of water lettuce, and these were all brought in from outside, so they're still adjusting to inside, and I honestly don't know if any of them will make it all the way through the winter. But so far the water hyacinth seems to have been doing really, really well, especially, I mean, like even this one over here. And then to a certain extent, some of the water lettuce is doing pretty all right. I'm hoping there's a lot of these new things, especially in this tank, that I'm hoping that those will adjust to being inside and under this light, and then they'll do well there, and then eventually I'll be able to move them back outside once it gets warm again. But here we have Anubias in the front. It's very dark water. It's from this piece of wood, but also from the water I added in. It's black water. And then there's some moss growing in here. There's just like terrestrial moss that I converted to growing underwater. And then here we have other terrestrial moss growing around. Actually, you can't. There's some back there, and right on this stick here. And then we have just a bunch of other plants going around here. So these right here, you might wonder what this huge vine is that I've gotten to circulate the lighting system, which kind of helps me sitting at my desk. I don't get blinded. But this is actually a sweet potato, and it's been going nuts, and I thought it would die off at some point, and it hasn't, which isn't a bad thing. I love it. I think it's really cool, but it's just pretty interesting. There's one thing of pothos going through, so you can see, and that was just a piece that had fallen off of the large plant, and I just stuck it in here. Sometimes pothos, well, in my experience of growing pothos in the water, is that eventually it just gets to a point that it's not going to grow anymore, and that's pretty annoying, but that just kind of seems to be how it is. So I don't recommend keeping it like solely in water, and I actually think that pothos does a lot better growing in dirt. But it's an amazing thing to add into filters and different things like that, because it takes out the nitrite and ammonia and things like that. But as you can see here, there's a ton of different plants you can do that with, including the lucky bamboo that's here. Obviously, like I said, a sweet potato, like surprisingly that works really well. There's aquatic plants, so we're gonna move over here. So these are, there's probably, like, my guess is like 40 to 50 or like 20, I don't know. There's a lot of baby Rosy Red Minnows, which I'm gonna do a video about it, but they're not good feeder fish, which is really disappointing on my part because I didn't know that until like after I bred them in my pond. So then there's a ton in here, and I'll get over there, but there's a ton of them in there as well, and they're just not, like, I was gonna kind of catch some and feed them to my turtles, but they're not even good feeder fish, so the turtles won't really catch them on their own. If they do, it's fine, but it's just not great, and I'll kind of talk about that. So over here we have the Guppy Tank, and I'm hoping that I can move them out during the summer, next summer, and get them breeding like crazy, because if I could do that, like get a ton of hornwort and, like, you know, the water hyacinth and the water lettuce, and just like fill up a tub, throw in a sponge filter, throw them outside, you know, load them up with food, and hope that they just like explode in their numbers. They are actually good feeder fish, so that's kind of the hope there. As well, we have apple snails and Japanese trapdoor snails. There is an apple snail in here, but I haven't seen it for a while, which is really disappointing because it's like pretty big. And there's another one that's pretty big, and I'll talk about that. I'm gonna try to find it today while I'm doing water changes, but that's what's going on in here. And here we have lots of hornwort inside, so each one has kind of like, so this one has Anubias, this one has hornwort, and then the same, you know, plants on the top and whatnot. And then they have been doing pretty well. And then here we have the Betta Tank with sand, which looks really crappy. I'm gonna, you know, clean that up when I do the water change. And then this has the moneywort or bokeh something, which is a stem plant, and then it has all the crazy roots from the sweet potato sitting back there, and it has some creeping Jenny. That's what this is, which looks amazing. This area right there, you just look at that. So we have like these sticks coming up, and you can't really see, they're all like cut off. I actually found this piece like that in a river, so that's why it's kind of like rounded off everywhere. And then you just have all these parts sticking up, which just looks so natural to me. I love that creeping Jenny has such like little leaves. It really rounds off a lot of builds, I think, or a lot of setups. And then we have Italian Vallisneria, which has been expanding like everywhere. So within that pot, that it's like a dirted pot. So these two tanks are dirted. This one just has some really dirty pebbles and whatnot, and these are big enough so then the turtle won't eat them. And then in here we have sand with the Betta. Now unfortunately, while the tank's doing pretty alright, I mean the sand looks really bad, the Betta's not. And it's, I don't know why exactly, but it has dropsy. So it's still alive and it still like eats and stuff, but it definitely has something wrong with it, which I believe to be dropsy. And I tried to treat it a little bit with salt. I put salt in the tank. I'm not sure that that helped at all. I could add more. I don't know. I'm kind of, I don't know what to do about it exactly, because it's just, I don't know. I might do a video about it. I might not. I'm not exactly sure, but that's kind of the deal with the Betta. And yeah, so that's kind of unfortunate, but the tank has still been doing pretty well. Now, luckily, dropsy isn't super like contagious, so I don't have to worry about like transmitting it to other tanks as much anyway. So here I'm gonna throw in some food for the Betta, and then I generally give flakes to the guppies and the Rosy Red Minnows as well, because I just like to give them lots of food, because the Rosy Red Minnows are still growing. And this is way too many minnows for this tank. They'll probably, at some point, I'll probably move them into that tank with all the other ones. And then there's still some out in the pond as well. And now we're going to move on to the 125 gallon. Now, this has Norman, the red-eared slider, and Phoebe, the red-eared slider. And they shouldn't be in the same side, but Norman just goes ahead and crawls over the thing. which is fine when they're basking because they can bask together and they don't bother each other. But the problem is when they get into the water, Norman likes to attack Phoebe, so I will separate them and I make sure that does not happen. I mean, I'm like here a lot, so it's pretty easy to just, you know, make sure it doesn't happen. And I will probably extend the divider, but I don't think it'll be so much of a problem once I get Norman a proper basking area, because unfortunately I haven't built one yet, and I still need to modify Phoebe's as well. So there's things to do, but it's not, you know, the biggest concern, because he can just go up and bask with her, and he does that pretty consistently, and then I just move him back over. So now the tank's getting kind of cloudy, so that's why I'm going to do a water change today. There's the goldfish. The goldfish are doing well. The catfish that's in here is doing well as well. And just, I think it's just getting cloudy because there's goldfish and turtles in here. So I need to just do a water change. But it's not like drastic or anything, so I don't think it'll be too much of an issue. And just everything's doing well in there. So in with the Betta was an apple snail, like quite a large apple snail. And I put salt in the aquarium, and I was like, apple snails probably don't do very well in salt water. I mean, it's not salt water, it's not even probably brackish water. It's like a very, very little amount of salt that I added in, or it seemed like a lot to me, but I don't really think it had that big of an effect on anything. So I was like, probably should take out the apple snail, so I threw it in here, and I haven't really seen it, and I'm really, really hoping that the turtle didn't like hurt it, but I think it's somewhere back there, because under there you can like get back in there. So I'm gonna try to search for it and make sure it's not like stuck or anything, and make sure it's still doing well, because I really enjoyed that apple snail because it's like really cool. I mean, it's like massive. So here we have the other 125 gallon, and it's been doing very, very well. So in here we have all of the community fish, and I moved in a ton of the minnows from the pond. So then we have a huge range of sizes of minnows and like a ton of minnows in here. There's one tetra that is, I don't know, I just have one tetra. I don't buy fish, so I obtained it some way a long time ago. So it's in here. As far as I'm aware, I don't see it. Hopefully it's still in here. The turtles might have gone after it. I don't know. It's done pretty well keeping away from the turtles. And then we have Cory Catfish, a bunch of Cory Catfish, and then one blunt-nosed minnow, or it's just not a Rosy Red Minnow, it's just a fathead minnow. It's right there. So you can see it's just one brown minnow, and then all the other ones. Now I took in all the minnows, and then I also bred some over the summer in the pond, or they bred over the summer in the pond. What is she doing? She's like moving all weird with her legs. And everybody's doing pretty well in here. So I moved in a ton of the water lettuce from outside because it's been getting colder. So that kind of has taken over. I mean, that's not taken over. I added this much in. Oh, here's the tetra, if you're wondering. And it seems to be doing pretty all right in here. And I think everything's doing pretty well. So the turtles have been basking, everything's been doing well in here. The water hasn't gotten cloudy, but it kind of has more filtration. I mean, it has this thing, and yeah, so it kind of has more filtration than the other tank. And then over here we have the tank with, I guess, the least filtration, and this has like a super powerful pump and then a kind of weird in-tank filter that's buried under the gravel right there that actually I think works pretty well. So it's there's kind of like a weird cloudiness to it, kind of same with the other tank. I think it's just because, I mean, this tank had no real beneficial bacteria, nothing. It's just completely newly set up. Some of the rocks, you know, were in other tanks before this, so they had some beneficial bacteria, but it could definitely use a water change, so it's one of the reasons I'm going to go ahead and do a water change. And here we have Susan. She's doing well. I have her properly for rehome on Craigslist, and then the same with the red-eared sliders. I have them up to rehome on Craigslist as well, and that is because, or these 3 little guys here, and that's because I'm tired of keeping turtles that can't be housed with other turtles. So she can't be housed in here because she'll eat the gravel and she'll eat the fish. She can't be housed with either one of these 2 because both of these 2 are mean to her. So that really sucks. And I would like to be able to clear up this space for something else. And I don't know exactly what that is. My plan is to breed map turtles or painted turtles. So if I could have like another tank to maybe set up for like breeding purposes or something like that, or maybe I won't, maybe I will just, you know, continue taking in turtles as I have the space in my room to do so, and then I think that would be, you know, a good idea. So that's kind of the plan with her. And then with the little turtles, I have no intention of keeping so many red-eared sliders. I really don't have a whole lot of interest in red-eared sliders. Sliders aren't really my interest in general, but because I take in animals, I kind of keep whatever is the, you know, the most common type of thing, which is fine. And I really enjoy turtles. I'm not like, I mean, red-eared sliders are really cool, and all turtles are really cool. But what I'm realizing is that a lot of them, like these 2, once they get to adulthood, they need massive tanks that, well, I mean, I realize that, but the key to that is they need to be massive solo tanks. So they need their own tank space to themselves and only themselves, because they'll attack other turtles. So, I mean, other turtles also get large, and I realize this, like the painted turtles and the map turtles, and they can be housed together. Well, it depends completely on the turtle. So I'm not saying like all sliders are gonna hate each other and you're not gonna be housed them together, because that's not true. And then I'm not saying like all painted turtles and map turtles are going to be super friendly, because again, that's not true. But with the ones that I've dealt with, that's somewhat true for a good amount of them, or some of them at least. So I don't know. I'm not really entirely sure what my plan is, but I know that taking in animals all the time is very stressful, and I'm tired of doing that. So I'm trying to rehome the animals that I never really planned to keep, of course. And then, I mean, because I took them in to rehome them eventually. And then I need to get everybody I really enjoy and want to keep like completely settled. And I've kind of done that with the turtles mostly, but not so much with the lizards and stuff like that. So that's just different plans for the future. Hey guys, so I believe somebody had asked me to do an update video. If you want these to happen more often, just go ahead and comment down below. And then if you have any other video suggestions, just go ahead and comment down below. I might not get to it right away, but I have a huge list of things that I want to make in the future, so I will get to it eventually. So if you have any other comments or concerns, put in the comments below. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, go ahead and like it. That's a good indicator as well. And then I'm sorry if the videos are kind of all over the place right now. They just kind of are. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. Like, this update video may not match up with the video that came before it, because the video that came before it might have been filmed after it. I'm not entirely sure. But if you want more content, then just go ahead and subscribe. That's a pretty good way to do that. And have a fantastic day.